Okay, so today's a big day. Today's the day we move from writing simple scripts to writing applications. So a script is just a single Python file that's intended to run all by itself. You might import some libraries into that, or you might import some libraries into that. But roughly speaking, the script is just a thing that's intended to run by itself. So that's just one py file, right? All right, an application is a slightly bigger object. Usually that consists of one kind of main script and then several modules that are files, right? Modules that are attached to that. So this is me splitting my one piece of code into several files and then importing the contents of those files. Now, this is not quite P5.js. It's not processing. It's not those kind of tabbed languages if you've had those. This is a slightly different beast. It's just a tiny bit subtle. That said, it's pretty powerful, and so it's worth doing. So to that end, I have here written some definitions. One of those things that I probably should apologize for is that I have a tendency to say the word sketch or program when I mean script or application. That is simply artifact from other languages. It's neither really good nor, well, I mean, it's kind of bad. But to be precise, Python's a scripting language, so Python files that are intended to be executed by themselves are scripts. A module is a single Python file that is intended to be imported and used by another Python file. So that's your script has the main game code in it, but you put the character in a module so you could just import it without having to look at it all the time because it's done, it's working the way you want it to work. Or you just got too much code and you stopped being able to find stuff, so you put it in other files. That's really what it's for. And then a package, which is a word you've probably heard me say. I tend to use the word package and library interchangeably, even though that's not really correct. A package is just a group of modules, and a library can be either a single module or a package, but it's somebody else's, like it's published usually. I'm going to continue to abuse those notations because I think the only thing that really matters is that the script is the file you're executing and the module is something you're importing. So today we're going to learn to put stuff in modules. So first things first here, I have written this very quick test. I'm importing the test module, which you can see is this py file. As far as the folder structure goes, these two are just sitting in the same folder. This print line is just diagnostic, right? That's just telling me that the main script is actually running. So if I hit run here, I'll get main script printed out. Great. If I go look in the test module function, or in the test module, I have this one function in here so far, which just doubles the number x. So if I import the test module, I can do something like, let's print out double 6 is, and then we'll do, well, I'd like to call the double function on 6, and I need to make this a formatted string. Okay, now is this going to work? Well, the double function's in the test module, and I imported it, so it probably should work. Guesses? Thoughts? Oh, crap. Well, okay, I lied. Remember that when you import just a whole module, you have to specify using the dot notation. So I need to do test module dot double 6. And now this should work. Okay, I get double 6 is 12. Great, awesome. This is working kind of the way I wanted it to. let me throw just a small wrinkle. So, say I wanted to just import the double function. So I don't want to deal with this dot notation. So I'm going to do from test module import double. Okay, so now this should work in exactly the same way, right? I'm importing that one function specifically. I'm getting it from the test module. We're doing this. Here's the wrinkle. If in the test module file in here, I have some kind of other code. Right. So I've got a piece of code that says this is the test module. If you're going back and forth, please note it will use the version of the test module that's saved. So if you're having weirdness, it's probably because you're not hitting Control S before you flip back and forth between tabs. So here I run this, and this is the weird thing, that it prints out this is the test module before it executes that main script. So this import line here, even though all I'm doing is importing the one double function, it's going to run any code that happens to be freely laying about in the test module file. Really what it does is it compiles the entire thing and then grabs the function that you specified out of it. So this is not necessarily up or down. This is just something you need to be aware of happening. Does that make sense? Like, just be aware. In order to get around this, sometimes people will do this thing where they do if name equals main. And you notice it auto-completed that whole thing. It put the main in hang on. So it auto-completed that whole thing, but it actually jacked it up. Because I have now if name equals main. Well, I have this part twice. I really only want one of those. So what that's going to do is that's going to say, is this thing the primary running code snippet? And if it is, then it'll do this code, and if it's not, then it won't. So I have a main.py file, which I guess was a crappy choice. Let me rename that to primary.py. Okay, so this is my now primary.py file, and I have my test module, which I remembered to save. And then I'm gonna wrap my main script, this part about main script, I'm gonna call this primary in there. And I'm gonna do that same thing. So yeah, that's super helpful, actually. And we just wanna get my print. All right, so it's not about the file's name, it's about whether it's the file that you're actually executing. So when I hit run, I see that primary script one prints, and then I get double 6 is 12. And that's what's going on there is because this is not the script that's being principally run, right? It's not the main running script. Then this crap doesn't happen. If it was the main running script, then this crap would happen. So if I hit go on this, I'll get this as the test module. Now the thing is that most of the time, the vast majority of the time, you don't want to put stuff into your modules that's intended to run. Because it'll run every time you import something, and if it takes more than just a bare second, it's probably a waste of everybody's time. So if you're going to put some code into a module just to check that it's working or something, wrap it in one of these if name is main things. Otherwise, you'll see there are lots of people out there who simply wrap the entire thing in a if name is main, and that's because those people like to just copy a file and drop it in and then import functions out of it like it's a module and intended to work that way. I tend to restructure every program I write, so I don't do that, but, you know, you're you, not me. You may do things differently. Let me add one final little wrinkle to this, which is that if you import, like, let me say here, you know, all right, let me define a function. So I'm going to define a random multiply function. This is going to take a number x, and it's going to return some random integer between 1 and 10 times x. Okay, and this is behavior that's going to be maybe a little confusing. It's going to claim that it doesn't recognize the function rand_int, right? Okay, so, well, it needs to have the random int function out of the random library. So I'll just get it here, right? Because this is the thing that's going to be running. So the thing is, if you try to get it here, it won't work. If you're going to require a library in a module, you have to do that import at the top of the module. So even if I have from random import rand_int here, and I save this thing, and I run it, oops, how about we import the other function? What was that other function called? It was called random multiply. See how it's nicely grabbing things out of that other file already? Like, this is all chill. I'm going to print, and I'm going to do this. I'm just going to take this thing and say random multiple of 6 is, and we'll call the random multiply function. I guess I should call that random multiply of 6, but whatever. Alright, so we run this. I'm getting rand_int isn't defined, even though I definitely imported rand_int. So even if I run that in here, so even if I say, all right, well, maybe it's just the rand_int function's broken. So I got a random integer, it was 8, but then when I tried to import the one out of the test module, it doesn't recognize the rand_int function. So in the test module, you're going to need to import that thing. And this is the only thing that's a little bit weird, is that you have to do these imports all the time. So from random import random. And that's really, Python's pretty good about standing on its own. Don't worry, this isn't costing anything in terms of compile time. It just has to be there to make the files work. It's a little bit peculiar. Some languages let you do one import, some don't. This is one that requires them. Okay, so that should be that for right now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to refactor the model indie code, which is going to take a little minute. So I'm going to kill this video and start again.